practice since 1992. Myself and Simon Woods, my partner, and we have two other directors, Catherine Munga and Kunal Patel, and we have a staff of about 30 people in our office, 15 as architects, technicians, and then administrative staff. We handle all types of architectural work. We do office buildings, apartment buildings, hotels, safari lodges, hospital work, schools, laboratories, and private houses. Well, in 1992, both of us were working as individuals. I had a practice, Simon had a practice. And we met and we concluded, for a number of reasons, that if we combined our practices, two partners had a better chance of developing and expanding. Because when a client meets one guy, he's meeting, let's say, a one-man band. But when he's meeting two people, and he has the feeling of a sort of a larger practice. It also means two people are able to go out and generate more work, generate more income, and then hire more staff. So it made a lot of sense for two of us to come together. The world marketplace is coming to Kenya. There was a time, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that the world marketplace was out there, and you had to go to China, you had to go to Spain, you had to find out who the people were who had things to bring. But most of the world marketplace producers now have realized there is a market in Kenya, and they are coming to Kenya and forming alliances with local agents. And I feel in about 3 to 4 years' time, everything on the world marketplace will be represented in Kenya by a local agent. So people in Kenya need to know what is in the world marketplace. And the world is huge, but you need to know how to bring in something from South America, how to bring in something from Europe, how to bring in something from North America. There are no boundaries anymore. So it involves a lot of research, a lot of looking on the internet. So when you're thinking of using something, like you want to use something like that, you have to spend time on the internet seeing how many different places that is made, how much it costs to bring in, but above all then, having brought it in, what the local backup is. Many people go overseas, buy things, bring these things in, and then nobody knows how to use them. So the combination of an overseas product and a local agent is very, very important, because a local agent can fix and modify and guarantee. So the world marketplace is already coming to Kenya, as it is everywhere else. You know, in many other countries, people build buildings, and the components of those buildings come from many parts of the world. You may buy your windows in Poland, and your doors in Italy, and your flooring in China, and your electrical fittings somewhere else. Years ago, when the currency in Kenya was restricted, the market was restricted to what was in Kenya now. But now it's everywhere, everything. So you have to know what's available, know how much it costs, know what the quality of it is, know who brings it in. And having brought it in then, know how to handle it and get somebody to fix it. So it's tricky, but that is the way it's moving now. We respond to what somebody wants. If somebody wants something, we will respond to it. So we don't go out into the rest of Kenya and look at things. Somebody comes to us and says, I want to do something. And it's usually the same developers. If a guy builds something here successfully, then his next move, let's say, will be Mombasa or Kisumu or whatever. So you can always be asked to do things in other parts of Kenya because you've done them in Nairobi. Sometimes work is specialist. Somebody may want a lodge in Masai Mara, or he may want a hotel at the coast. So he comes to Nairobi to find somebody to do it for him. So the expansion into the rest of Kenya, sometimes it's a natural process. We will have a more well-trained younger staff. We will have more experience. The architects who started off with us many years ago will have more experience. We'll be able to put more senior people onto projects. We'll be able to take on more work. Simon and I, as we get older and perhaps approach retirement, will take a different type of role in the practice, a more advisory one, and the younger architects in the practice then will develop, or are developing. It's already started. They're developing their own skills. They're also developing their own network. You see, the networking here is an age thing. When you're 20, you meet one kind of people. When you're 30, you meet other kind of people. When you're 50, you meet other kind of people. So the networking, whether it's your church, your community, your social group, and the use of social media is now huge. We do a building now, and we put it on Facebook, and 10,000 people see it in a week. That was unthinkable 2 years ago. 20 years ago, you just got a magazine every week and you could look through, but now everything is instant. So if you do something, so all of our junior staff are now becoming senior and they're well able to move. So in 5 years' time, we would expect our junior staff to have become seniors and play a much more responsible and a much more innovative role in the practice. I think the key qualities to be a successful entrepreneur in Africa are to be familiar with how high the standards are elsewhere in the world, and to not think that Kenya is a down market place where you can bring down market service. Kenya is growing exponentially. The standards are getting very high. What people want are very high, so people have to know the market. So there's no question anymore of saying, because Kenya is or was, let's say, a developing country, you can use less than 5-star products, less than 5-star services. So you have to learn what top of the line services are in the rest of the world, and then learn how to develop those. I also think you have to network very, very strongly. You have to make very, very strong use of social media. See, previously you had to go and meet somebody and convince them you were good and talk to him, whatever. Now you put your stuff out on social media and people can look at it. So I think social media, the use of computers are all the more serious aspects of entrepreneuring in Kenya. The other thing is, you must be aware that Kenya is the gateway to the inner part of Africa. A lot of people are not confident enough, particularly people from outside, to go into places like Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, and Tanzania. But if you speak Swahili and you go into these places, you're treated like a brother. So it's a very easy market to expand in if you're Kenyan. If you're not Kenyan, it's very difficult. So the Kenyans who can go into other places and establish business affiliations. You go to Rwanda, you set up an agreement with somebody, and then you agree to work together and you network together. You know, Kenya is not Kenya anymore. The African continent now is a huge area of growth and development for everybody. There's better possibilities for African entrepreneurs in Africa than there are for, I think, for any other entrepreneurs anywhere in the world, because all the other world markets are very crowded. Africa is still very open. There's still a lot to be done. There aren't very many challenges. It's basically that if there were to be challenges, it is their lack of information it's their lack of information of the opportunities out there. If you don't know what's out there, you're at a disadvantage. But the challenges are basically knowing your way around, being able to find your way around, being able to travel, being able to be flexible, and I think to be able to listen to people and find out what they want and how you can help them, and then go away and find the collaborators you need to provide the service they want. And always be considered as somebody who listens, and who listens to what is required and how you can help. There are not that many challenges as such. It's expensive to go out into a market and finance your way into a country, etc. It's expensive. But there are many ways you can do it by social media before you're committed to actually spending on it. But the challenges are really self-made. If you're young and enthusiastic and energetic in this country, it's a very, very simple move into the rest of the continent, and into Kenya in particular, and into business. I think the use of computers now is becoming so important that everybody should spend as much time as possible learning as much as they possibly can about software, hardware, computers, the interfaces between hardware, the syncing of things on computer. Everything now is done by people, and also there are huge changes taking place socially because people don't have to go to work anymore. You can get up in the morning and work from home. You can get up in the morning and learn from home. That means the architecture is going to change. Buildings are getting smaller. You don't need a big building anymore. You need a smaller space because people don't have as many books or materials or whatever. So learning how society is changing is very, very important.